Frankly speaking, though I've been asked to speak on education or education policy, uh, I have to admit it's not an area where I have worked. And my knowledge about the educational curriculum, etc., of India and Pakistan is rather very, very limited. Uh, anyway, first of all, let me express my uh, thanks and gratitude to the organizing committee of Asma Jahangir Memorial Conference. Uh, Asma was a very dear friend, and with all of you, I pay my tribute to her and miss her very much, particularly in these days. See, the way I see it, education is something that the states want to control. The reason is that it is through education they prepare the minds of the young future citizens and inculcate in them the ideology of the state. And that's why, and also prepare them for contributing into the production process, into management and other areas of work. So that's the, the first education policy of this country was prepared, I mean, you all know, by Lord Macaulay, as a part of essentially creating a class of Indians who would be able to, who would learn the system of everything, accountancy, about administration, and they would be able to assist the British in administering this country. And they did it very ably. The civil service and the entire clerkdom was all populated by Indians. So education, therefore, we have to understand is a part of the state's requirement. And primarily, it is to give the skills, as well as the important part of it is to inculcate in the minds of the young the ideology of the state. And it is important because if the citizens of the country do not adhere to or follow the ideology of the state, if they have a different ideology, then there is problem for the state. So therefore, it is an important, as I said, an important tool and something that the states prefer to control. They may not control the nitty-gritties, but they control the overarching, curriculum program and the system. What is happening to education? The earlier speaker talked about what is happening to the education system in India. Education, therefore, basically the policy reflects the nature of the state. Now, if we look at India, which followed for a long time a liberal democratic system, the education policy primarily and fundamentally imparted the values of liberal democracy. Since India had Indian Constitution adopted the idea of a secular nation and a multicultural nation. In fact, the original Constitution position on nationhood is very undefined in the sense it doesn't really have a clear ideological position on nation and nationalism. It talks loosely in terms of unity in diversity. Unity in diversity is something that actually was developed as a concept of nationhood by Tagore in his early writings and various poems. And therefore, as we see, the system continued primarily trying to promote secular understanding of the nation. And it is there in the education policy uh, till now, the new education policy, which has been brought about by the right-wing Hindu nationalist government in India. Pakistan's education policy followed the ideology of the state, of the Islamic State. And as we know, and I don't need to talk about it in detail to all of you, you are very much aware that how the curriculum therefore reflected that ideology and also promoted the understanding that all non-Muslims living in Pakistan were uh, inimical to the state of Pakistan. The similar thing is happening in India. Now, in India, the Muslims are and the Christians are being identified as internal enemies. And because the dominant ideology of nationalism promoted by the ruling government is a very hardcore Hindu supremacist nationalist concept. Globally speaking, this is happening almost everywhere, even in Europe, with the right everywhere under the neoliberal dispensation. The right wing has become very, very powerful. In fact, there is a coalition between the right, extreme right wing and the neoliberal economic system. And if you look at over the last decade, 2 decades, almost everywhere in Europe, sorry, almost everywhere in Europe, excuse me please, Uncle, sorry, almost everywhere in Europe, as we can see, the right wing has been on the rise. There are more than 8 or 9 states where the right wing is in power. Even in Germany, in France, the right wing has acquired a lot of legitimacy and support. And the right wing is primarily advocating a very extreme nationalist ideology. They really have no different program, economic program. They have basically, trying to capture the popular imagination, particularly people today all over the world who are facing extreme difficulties because of growing, unemployment, because of the crisis in capitalism, which is causing massive depression and inflation. So, taking advantage of that confusion and anxiety of the people, the right wing is trying to mobilize them into moving them away from the contradictions created by the capitalism and class contradictions, moving them into creating a kind of a unified mass of nationalists, saying the problem are created in case of Europe by the migrants, and they're extremely anti-migrant, and also turning them against the liberals and the left, saying that these are the people who are responsible for creating this mess in which the true nationalists of the country and true nation have been put to this situation of suffering. There's similar situation, similar kind of features we find in India, where the Muslims and the Christians are being projected as people who are taking advantage of our nation, of our economy, and actually eating away. And all this fear of the Muslim population exploding over the years and the Hindus becoming a minority, which is a completely impossible kind of an argument. And yet you will find that because of the kind of anxiety, because of the confusion in which the most people are, particularly the working class, who are under severe economic depression, they are all in many ways accepting this argument and falling for the kind of programs that the right wing is pursuing. So, talking about education, only thing I think is very important for us to notice or to take up that under the current dispensations, extreme nationalist ideas are, while it is being promoted by the right-wing government, and particularly right-wing government in India and in Pakistan, the possibility of the education that will be imparted being promoting liberal values and bringing back the ideas of equity and justice is not going to be possible soon. So therefore, it is important that the left and the liberal intellectuals should keep on and have to come together and work with larger sections of the society to resist this kind of transformation and this ideological position of the right-wing states. I really have nothing more to add because I think much has already been spoken and discussed. Whether how the RSS is subverting the education policy here, or how the various state or provincial governments' education department in Pakistan has continued to spread kind of hate against the minorities. All these matters you are aware of and we have discussed. But the thing that I wanted to emphasize that under the neoliberal situation, the promotion of right-wing politics and right-wing populism is very much a part of the agenda of the neoliberalism. And under that, extreme nationalist ideas are going to be promoted. And resisting that is the critical question that we need to address. Thank you very much.